Oh, and we are live.
Yay.
Yeah, hello everybody out there. Chris Palmares, I got Matt and also Janek. And we have a great show for you. We got a lot of content. You know, this all kind of came together sort of, you know, today, and just like, wow, we have a lot to share with you. We wanted to share some of the GP7s, the fresh announcement of GP7s with you. We also have just some new projects that have been coming in for review. Janek's been reviewing, Matt's been reviewing. So we're going to touch upon that stuff. We're really excited to show everything that we have. So let's just jump right into this. We're going to start off with the GP7s, and I'm going to make sure to start off correctly with sharing the screen this time. So part of the whole family of the GP7s and GP9s was also the GP18. So look out for this full page ad. It's going to be in a few magazines coming up. This is actually the Illinois Central version, 9413. So look for this ad in the coming month or so. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that the family is growing here. We're adding on to the GP7s and 9s, going into the GP18s as well. So without further ado, on the GP7s, we have some C&O, B&O chassis GP7s. These guys right here. Now, going out east was kind of an eye-opener. I know there's a lot of people looking for some chop nose, and as we work on that project kind of behind the scenes, we still wanted to produce stuff that would be of interest to everybody over kind of like in the Maryland, you know, Ohio, Baltimore, all that stuff. We wanted to produce some chassis things and kind of touch upon that. There were some phases and variants that we didn't get to do yet. So roping those in here. If you'll notice that some of the dynamic brakes, some have them, some don't. Some have torpedo tubes on these chassis locomotives here. I guess one of them might have been a passenger. What do you think, Janek?
Yeah, it's got the what looks like the fuel and water tanks underneath and the air tanks on the roof. So yeah, I'm not sure what the heritage of that one is, but looks like it was a passenger unit.
Yeah, well, you know, we have a lot of kind of passenger tooling in our arsenal, not only for the GP7s and 9s, but also other stuff too. So moving on to the Illinois terminal. Now, before we jump into the Illinois terminal detail variants, I got an email from Tony Cook today. Just want to say, hey, Tony, thank you for reaching out to me about this and also supplying two photos, both of Richard R. Wallen shots in Tony Cook's personal collection. So looking at those two photos right now, here's one of 1601. And then another one of 1602. That almost looks like Bloomington. I might be mistaken, though. So, Janek, can you tell me a little bit more about the Illinois Terminal GP7s?
I can, actually. One thing that we use to help us when we do our research, we try to use as much material as we can. So photos, books, and magazines. In this case, we had a very helpful magazine here. This is the flyer, the Illinois Terminal Society newsletter from fall of 1992. And actually, there's a lot in here. The whole thing is almost about GP7s. So the ITC got 6 of them, and they were delivered in 53, and they were delivered in what's called the rubber band scheme, which is what you see here. This has never been offered before by anyone, as far as I'm aware. And one of the most interesting things about this, I don't know a lot about ITC, but I do know that they have two greens. They had the sort of lighter green, which was on like the SD39s, and then they had a more dark green, which is like on the later GP38-2s. But I learned with these that they actually had three greens, and this was another green still. It didn't really have a name. It was just called EMD green, and they were delivered in this third green. So we're going to replicate that by having a different green on our models than the other ITC models that we've released.
Well, that's fantastic, man. So we really went a step further on it, it sounds like.
Yeah, we did. We worked real close with a lot of the ITC guys on this one. We got a lot of feedback about what versions that we should produce, because these things wore 5 or 6 different paint schemes. You know, if you look through this book, there's a lot of different versions on there that we can do. But we mostly stuck with the as delivered versions on these. You can see that they've got the Scotchlite stripes on the ends. Those tended to wear off pretty quick. Some of them were replaced, some of them weren't. It just depends. And then these have the, of course, the rubber band with the yellow going down the sides and the small ITC logo on each end. And the bell is mounted up on the nose, I believe, at least on most of them. And yeah, they've got the MU stands on each end, as you can see, the big tall ones. Yep. And the Leslie free chime up on top of the short hood. And the whole roof of these things is painted light gray too, which is kind of interesting, but that's an ITC thing. So that's how these will be.
Was that just the cab roof or the roof of the whole locomotive?
It's the entire roof of the locomotive, I believe.
Because I remember that the SD39s, they painted the entire roof of the locomotive except for certain areas of it. They painted it all, what was it, silver or aluminum?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So the entire roof on these, just above the radius there, is going to be light gray.
Okay.
So that's an interesting feature.
Yeah, that's a feature you can't really see just by standing kind of at like eye level looking at the locomotive. You kind of got to know about it. It's going to be super visible when we're looking at a model, you know, kind of down on. But when you're looking at the prototype, like at this angle here, it's not something totally visible. You might just think it's on the cab, but it's neat to know that we did the due diligence to figure out it's the entire roof line.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that we didn't do, I noticed in your photo, Chris, they managed to paint the coupler green. Ours is going to be brown, but if you guys want to paint it green, then you can do that.
That's funny. Details, huh?
Yeah. Prototype for everything, right? I noticed on this photo too, you can see on the front end there, the Scotchlite is almost completely gone, but you can still see where it used to be. So it wore off quickly, but it was there in the beginning. So
yeah, I got another one here that shows off the Scotchlite in a little bit better condition. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. You can see that a lot better now.
Mm-hmm.
So going down to Western Pacific and the Sacramento Northern, I think the whole Western Pacific story and the Sacramento Northern are kind of, I think we get kind of caught up in like class 1 railroads. We always remember the class 1s, New York Central, Western Pacific, you know, whatever the case may be. But don't forget that some of these little smaller railroads, they were called feeder railroads. And what the feeder railroad would do would kind of direct business over to the parent railroad. And in fact, the Sacramento Northern became a subsidiary of Western Pacific. Well, What's interesting to know is the whole reason that Sacramento Northern kind of lasted as long as it did and didn't get fully absorbed into the Western Pacific is I went to the Wikipedia article, and it turns out that the reason why WP kind of kept the Tidewater Southern, the Central California Traction Company, they were earning a kickback. There was some extra fees here. I'll highlight this. There was extra fees earned from shipper customers by interchanging freight from one railroad itself to another railroad, in this case, the Sacramento Northern. So I'm sure it didn't only apply to Western Pacific either. I'm sure it applied to like Peoria and Eastern and, some of the other subsidiaries that some of the Class 1 railroads had. So it's good to keep that in mind, especially if, you're modeling the Bay Area or some of these sort of terminal railroads. Illinois Terminal became part of Norfolk and Western, and NW just totally pulled it in and got rid of that Illinois Terminal thing. So it must have changed at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, but if you're modeling a certain period, it's good to know that background so you can kind of accurately portray that in your operation a little bit more. So the Western Pacific Jeep 7s, 3 of them are still kind of out there in preservation right now. That would be, in this case, the 708. This would also be the 712. This one's still Sacramento Northern. This is over at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum. And then this last one, shout out to TSG Multimedia out there. 713, this is actually over at Niles Canyon. So 3 of them still kind of in operation today, albeit in preservation, but you can still go out and see them, which is pretty darn cool considering this group of locomotives. Something else to note about the GP7s is these 4 kind of came from the same order.
Mm-hmm.
Order 5230 from EMD. They all started off as Western Pacific units, and then 711 and 712, they both migrated over to Sacramento Northern. So going back to the Sacramento Northern here, you can see that, they're pretty much spotting wise pretty similar. They both have dynamic brakes. They both have a winterization hatch. Horn placement is pretty similar. Although the Sacramento Northern has looks like a xenon strobe. Also, the striping is a little bit different between the Sacramento Northern and the Western Pacific.
Yeah.
Janek, do you have any thoughts on the WP units?
Well, like on the SN units, they don't say WP on the front. They just have the stripes, which is interesting that you think they could have just done SN on the front, but they just chose to put stripes on it. So
yeah.
Now,
it's pretty funny. It's a real autumn type paint scheme, and this is really, I believe, the first time we offered the GP7s without the barrel style headlight. I believe the last time we did them silver and orange with the barrel style headlight. This is the first time that we're offering the conventional pile style headlight in the dark green freight scheme with the orange accents.
Now, would these have been about the same time period as the FPs? And would these have worked with the FPs when the FPs got put into freight service?
I'm not really sure the answer to that, because I think the FP started disappearing from passenger service about a little bit before our Amtrak. I saw Harry Wong on here. Maybe he can answer that question. He's pretty familiar with the 70s era Bay Area railroading. As far as maybe freight service, when the Fab 4 were out running around, I think these things, you could see them working together with the Fab 4.
Okay, I just curiosity because we had those FP7s in last month's announcements, so just a hand in hand sort of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. So moving on to the Peoria and Eastern, and
That's
New York Central locomotives. That was a shot by Louis Marre.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Although I would point out that that shot has the side skirts cut back, which was a later modification. The version that we were doing has the full skirts, which is how they were delivered. But if you want to do it like the photo, then you just take a pair of nippers and you just cut it right off. So it's no big deal.
Hey, Janek, I got you covered. I found a few black and white photos. This is from, let's see here, whose collection is this? This is from Richard Leonard's Rail Archive. This shows actually two Peoria and Eastern GP7s going across the grade crossing, or not the grade crossing, but the actual diamonds over in Bloomington, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And these have the side skirts unmodified. And this is 1958.
Okay. Yeah. So they were delivered in 1950. So they did last a while before the skirts got modified.
I got a little ahead of myself there.
That's not a Jeep 7.
That's more
No, but these are.
Oh, there's another cool shot.
Yeah, that's kind of the train going back the other way over in Bloomington.
Yeah,
A really cool shot. I mean, this is another one of those cases of a subsidiary railroad not quite fully absorbed into the parent railroad, but operating independently, sort of.
Yeah, and you notice these are running with the long head forward, which on these engines was considered the front. So this would be the normal direction of operation for them.
Oh, that's cool.
Now,
So let's go back.
what railroad were they crossing here, Chris? What's on that E unit?
Oh, the E unit. Let me see. That's Gulf Mobile and Ohio.
Okay, I was wondering if that was the GM&O, because I guess that would have turned in to the UP line down to St. Louis now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is. I found this shot kind of when I was really interested in Bloomington as sort of like a module concept.
Mm-hmm.
I really kind of gravitate towards yards. The fact that this kind of represented Southern Pacific, which I know everybody totally hates, but it was kind of like the closest Southern Pacific station to where I live in Champaign. And, you know, the story is just awesome about how the GM&O went from the GM&O to the ICG to the IC and then to the CM&W, and then part of SP's merger with Rio Grande. That initiative brought on the SPCSL, the Chicago St. Louis Gateway, and this was a part of that. And then it became part of Union Pacific.
Okay. Interesting. Almost looks like the GM&O's on a crew change. They're waiting for the P&E to cross.
Yeah. This is just a really cool shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Going back over. Yeah, and I mean, one of the things too, someone brought up to us that we forgot system at the end of it. Don't worry, we'll be sure to get that integrated into the artwork.
Yep, they know about that already, so they might already have it done.
So the last of the variants, and this has been like one of those all the time type things. We go to like an RPM meet, we go to a show. Even when I was over in Columbus recently, the train shop out there is just like, hey, don't forget about those B units. We really want them as zebra stripes. So I'm really excited to show that, you know, hey, we heard you. And in this announcement, we have the Santa Fe zebra stripe B units as well as the A units.
And this is the first time we're doing the Jeeps as an AB set, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it makes sense, just like F units, A's and B's. If they're Jeeps, A's and B's, then they should go together. So
Yeah. Yeah, we need to go after me next time with the UP A's and B's.
Yeah, for sure.
And Chris, we're also offering them individually, right?
Yes, we are. That's really important to note. Thank you for bringing that up. And let me scroll down here. I could show you the SKU that has the single A and the single B.
Mm-hmm.
That would be this part number right here. That would be the GP7B. It's a 82202 and 82302. That's the single B unit.
Good. That's good to have. And you can sort of make any combination that you want then.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, so that kind of covers all the GP7 locomotives. Now, Matt, let's kind of I kind of jumped ahead here. What have you been looking at?
Canadian Pacific GP38-2s, maybe.
Maybe.
Spoiler alert.
These little guys here?
Hey, look, those guys right there.
Ooh.
Eh?
Yeah, so the production samples arrived over the weekend, I guess it was, late Saturday, and got them in, and they look really good. I'm pretty happy with the tooling updates and modifications that we made to them. The CP modelers reached out to us and let us know at the announcement stage, hey, there's a couple of things that need to be updated on these to be, Genesis level model. And we listened. We took the nose into consideration. The nose originally tooled with the project, before we were here, the three of us, was the headlight was in the wrong location, so we had to correct the headlight. And then there was a couple of other small details. The dynamic brake blister on the CP units is extended a little bit further past the vents, and so we added the correct dynamic brake blister. There is a step detail on the engineer side forward battery box, and so we had to modify the separately applied battery boxes to get that step in there. So we got that taken care of. And the walkway for the conductor side handrails, we had to update the walkway and then the conductor side handrail to get the stanchions and everything correct for the blower housing. And then the final detail, while we were there, we wanted to get the Canadian marker lights on the rear of the long hood corrected. The housing originally had squared off corners, and these were supposed to have rounded off corners. So we took the opportunity to get those details corrected as well. So
it's looking really good, Matt.
Yeah. Again, you get that CP red out in the sunlight like in these photos, and it's just, it looks so good.
It's like a Ferrari.
Yeah. So honestly, pretty happy with the way these came out. What our factory's capabilities are never ceases to amaze me with the paint masking and everything, like on the handrails, because you notice the railing is black, but the stanchions and where the stanchions meet the railing are red, and that's a paint mask. There's no separate color injection molding there. The handrails are molded in solid red, and then they paint the white verticals and the black horizontals in this instance. And it's just incredible the work that our guys overseas can do.
Yeah.
Then of course, you've got the rest of the painting and assembly on the model. The safety stripes on the nose and the rear of the hood. Said the Canadian class lights there on the cab and the rear of the long hood. They just turn out very, very nice. I'm pleased with them. I think our Canadian modelers will be pleased with these as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this down on here, You can even see what are those rain gutters above the cab window?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very nice. And you sent some more of the heritage
Oh yeah.
Canadian Pacific locomotive here.
Right. It's just a classy looking scheme. I wish that locomotive were still out on the rails. Last I heard, it had a couple of mechanical issues, so it's sort of sidelined right now. But that's just a classy locomotive, and the heritage fleet that NS has now just continues that paint scheme tradition, and it's just a very attractive paint scheme.
Yeah, that's the scheme they just put on those new 70 ACUs, right?
Yes, it is. But don't say ACU too loudly. That might get the people in the comments section to bombard us. But
yeah,
I'm pleased with the way these turned out. So I think the CP modelers would be quite happy with them.
absolutely. That one kind of shows the front end a little bit better. You can see how the headlight kind of hits the nose stripes now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a lot better. Yeah.
Then, as I mentioned about the painting and printing, I mean, look at the safety striping on the Rock Pilot and then the Frame Pilot.
Can you imagine having to mask that off yourself?
No. In some cases, that's why I don't have a problem having other people do it.
Yeah. That's just one step removed of being insane, like kind of masking off the Katy yellow and green and doing all those stripes around the cab and the nose by hand. That's just, people used to do that back in the day, but you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
We're happy to do it for you.
Right. That photo that you've got up right there shows that rain gutter really well. The light hits it just right.
Yeah, definitely. And also that step on the engineer battery box.
Mm-hmm. Do you have one of the profile shots of the nose to show the height of the headlight location? There you go.
How about that one?
Yep. Right, the bottom of the headlight housing meets right there at the top of the handrails. Based on the photos and the comments from the CP modelers, that's right where she's supposed to be.
Fantastic.
So,
well, Jack sent me a couple more photos from some GP39-2s he's been reviewing. He's been looking at some D&H GP39-2s. And while that photo's loading up, these were, I think we've done the D&H in two different paint schemes prior to this, and the gray and blue, and then the solid blue. Janek, do you recall?
Yeah, and actually there were two versions of the solid blue, and two versions of the gray as well. So this is like our fifth D&H paint scheme.
There's the other angle there. Let me get that one going. So these have also the rain gutters on the top part of the cab as well.
Yeah, these came from the Reading originally. They had an order of 20 of these. They only lasted for 3 years before they got sent over to the D&H. And then after Guilford came in, then they started getting painted up like this. So,
well, shout out to Timbo Slice out there from Maine Model Works. It was a lot of fun to go visit you over in Maine, and these are pretty much right up your alley, I bet.
it's a good looking paint scheme.
Janek, you mentioned you had some photos that you've been working with too. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will attempt to share my screen and share these photos.
Okay.
They're similar to what you just showed off, but a little bit different. So let me do this right now, see if this works. Can you guys see that?
Let me go down here. Janek screen. I see a Janek screen. Let me add that.
All right. You guys see the 4314 there?
Oh, wow.
So this is a GP39-2, and at a first glance, still looks like it's a Delaware and Hudson, or maybe a Guilford, or what is it? Well, if you look on the cab, it is a CSX GP39-2.
Ooh, sublettering.
That is really cool.
So this one has some really neat little details on it. We got the stepped arrows that CSX was putting. This is an early 90s era. So we got the GP39-2 designation here, and some really nice other printing on the cab here. So this is a good prime for grind model here, because you got the G faded out, you got the different color patch, which is not quite the same color of gray. And what's really neat about this one, they went in and painted the step edges red, which really makes it stand out. That's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
There's the other side, if you guys can see that. So these are really nice, and they're coming soon. So
Yeah, are these deco samples? I take it, Janet.
no, these are production samples.
Oh, yes. they
Oh
will be.
boy.
Yeah, so these are coming soon.
That sounds like more work for Rory.
Yeah, these are the ones that we're sending straight to him, Chris. So he should have these soon.
Fantastic.
So those should have cube speakers in them then, I think.
Yes. Yes. LEDs, cube speakers, the whole 9 yards. So,
That's great.
Well, there's more neat stuff to show off. One of the things that Jack sent me, I'm going to tease this now, is this guy.
this one's
Oh, Maerski.
This one's been a long time coming.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing these in person. The photos look great. Let that one load up for a second.
The blue on those turned out really nice on the SDP 40F or SD 40F-2, excuse me, and the SD 40-2 that we produced last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
That blue just really stands out and looks really good.
It's just the white and the blue, the black and the silver, man. It is such a classy looking paint scheme. The full width car body locomotive. This thing just looks mean, you know. So let's go over here. If that, no, not quite yet.
Yeah, would this one count as a war bonnet, Chris? You think?
It might have been a precursor to, you know, the blue bonnet scheme that NS used. All right, let's see if this is up now. There we go.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Ooh, that's really close here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So you can see how the lines are looking on this, just the silver and everything. This is an awesome looking locomotive. This is the first time we're really showing this off in any sort of capacity.
Yeah, we had some really nice detailed photos of this thing, and the guys actually got up on the roof and walked all the way from the back to the front, so we got every detail on the roof just right. And there's a lot going on up there.
Yeah, look at all that rooftop detail. Only the Santa Fe would have like 2 or 3 different kinds of Sinclairs up there, you know.
Yeah.
This was the prototype that we got the bulk of our dimensions from, because at the time it was out there in Utah. And so we got the dimensions off this locomotive, and therefore, since we had access to it, we got that much more accurate paint detailing from it too. So.
Well, that kind of wraps up all the photos that I had of all the different things that we were working on. Kind of go back over to Galesburg here.
Doesn't look very sunny over there.
Right, you are.
It's only 2.5 hours away, and it's nice, bright sun here.
So let's get this up. This is the part where we get to do a little rail fanning and take your questions. So let's start going through some of these and answering them the best we can. So let's see here, starting off with.
Do we have the right of refusal to answer?
We're getting a lot of
this is a neat one here. This is kind of going back into the Bay Area railroading type thing. Oops, no. That's not it. There's Tom Armstrong asked about Transisco 49er Express. Remember those F49s or F45s?
They were painted up in blue and red, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think there was like 3 of them or so. They go from like they just head over Donner.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Someone has a frog in their throat asking for some P30CHs. And he's coughing.
P30CHs.
The old pooch.
Hey, Tommaso, hope you feel better, man. Get rid of that cough.
Well, we've got a lot of GEs in the works. Wouldn't rule out P30CHs, but just keep your eye on the announcements for GEs.
Yep. We have Francis Wong. When are the N-scale big boys due? Will you guys be doing another run of N-scale Bombardier passenger cars? Prices on the secondary market are getting ridiculous again, he says. So the first part, I guess we can clear up and just sort of suggest going to Athearn.com. In fact, I could look that up while you guys are discussing the second part of the question.
Well, for the second part of the question, there's a lot of paint schemes we haven't done on those cars before. So I would say that it's about time for another run. And anytime we're gonna do HO scale, we're gonna try to do N scale at the same time. So it just makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
I'd say they're coming soon.
Well, I'm looking up the N scale big boys right now. Let me switch over from the railfan cam to that. So going over to the N-scale big boys. It looks like they're coming early March, and that would be 2021. So let's see here.
There's still been a couple of development things in the works on those for causes a few of the delays, but other than that, they've pretty much been on schedule. So, yeah.
It looks like we actually have two comments about the Texas-Mexican Railway, one from Oscar Hernandez and another one from Oscar Hernandez about the Texas-Mexican Railway. I guess it was a dupe. I couldn't quite see it in my window here. But hey, I guess that would encompass GP60s and things like that. So it's something to consider.
Yep, and 38-2s, I believe.
Yep.
Well,
yeah, a couple of friends down in Texas, whenever we announced the Roundhouse GP60s last Friday, gave me a hard time for not doing the Tex-Mex. So I told him he needed to talk to Janek.
No Torchies for you.
Oh. Life's not worth living without Torchies.
We have, it looks like RJ Hugh asking about, let's see, some Whizzer locomotives here. And then we also have Christopher Acuna asking, how about some WP GP20 in green and silver and orange paint?
how about some GP20s?
Yeah, how about some GP20s, period? That's a good one.
Yeah.
We're getting up there. I mean, we're getting to the 18s now. So something to look into.
The takeaway is, for all of the suggestions ultimately, is there are so many models that fit in our line that we want to do. It just takes time. I know that there are videos out there showing the process of model railroads and Bronco Railroad manufacturing and things like that, and it takes time. I've been working on one project that's supposed to be announcing later this summer. I've been working on it for the better part of 3 years now. So,
yep.
I mean, we hear your request, Jeep 18s, shop nose Jeep 18s, Jeep 20s, all that sort of stuff. We want to do it. Trust us. It just takes time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, here's another one from James Hawkins Jr. asking about, you guys going to release any more of the tunnel motor rear replacement trucks? I think he's meaning a standalone part of just the rear tunnel motor truck. What do you guys think?
To use, well, and Chris, you have a little bit of experience with this, but to use that rear truck, you have to use the new underframe, or else your existing underframe is going to take quite a bit of milling, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be done. You can do the milling, but I think as a spare part without like the tunnel motor frame to go with it, it would be a tough one. But it's something for us to look into possibly doing both. If you want to get just the frame and the truck, maybe that's an opportunity there. We'll look into it more and appreciate your suggestion on that.
Right. Yeah, that was the idea of releasing the whole chassis whenever we did the tunnel motors last time.
Yeah. Corey Watkins asked about the FEF 844. I guess he's asking if we're going to do it again.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's still out there running, and it ran with the big boy for a while, or at least a little while. So that'd be cool to do that one again.
Yeah, that's coming up on a year ago. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
Yep. Our good buddy Joseph Espinoza asks, will you guys be doing an ES44 with the raised radiator grills?
See previous comment. Lots of GEs in the works.
Yeah. And another one from Scott Walter. He's asking about some more UP SD70 Aces.
SD70 Aces are in the works as well. There's been a couple of enhancements done to the model, and so we're excited to bring those out and announce those. Hey, we got a yard job going.
Squirrel.
Well, HLCX power. It wasn't just orange.
Yeah.
Aces. Yeah, we had some refinements we wanted to make to that before we brought them back out, and we think that everybody will be pretty happy with them whenever we get the announcements out. We're shooting for an announcement later this year if everything goes according to plan.
We have James DeLuna.
Oh, sorry.
He's asking about Kansas City de Mexico, KCSM, Southern Bell, and TFM Gray Ghost SD70 Aces. So another ace request.
I've seen some very positive feedback about the TFM 70 Max that went live in this current packet, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there was a couple hints that we've been hitting the hearts of a lot of Mexican railroad modelers, especially with those Trinity covered hoppers that we announced recently. We're doing some Ferromex ones with the multi-stripe going across the body. Those were really, really popular. We want to respond with that and be sure to get enough product out in the market to kind of support the rise in interest of this of those railroads.
Definitely, if it's something that we can put on existing tooling, let's go for it.
Yeah. We also had a request for Southern Pacific SD9s. I saw that kind of scroll by. I'm trying to find the comment. I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah,
I saw it.
There's been a handful of comments for the SD9Es, and then I've seen BN SD9s, which would subsequently be CB and Q previously.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that goes back to our want list is so long, and you know, I'm just chipping away at it as quick as I can, and hopefully your all's patience will be well rewarded.
We have a request for an SDP40, and kind of like along the lines you were just saying, we got a lot of cool stuff coming, and it's taken a little bit of time to get through our backlog of projects. Would you say that's about right for this too?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I think go hand in hand with the SDP40 that we would do sort of all at the same time, and so it would be one of those package type deals. So hopefully.
Let's see here. Our good buddy Jason Quinn here is putting in an SD18 request. And by the way, Jason, thanks for all your help on those GP7s, the chassis ones. Really appreciate your contributions to the artwork that you've submitted with the improved numbers and a number of other things to really nail those things.
SD18 would be a logical progression with SD7s and 9s. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to do those Alco trucks for the Chesapeake and Ohio ones.
We have a request for some steam here, just to kind of mix things up a little bit, from Miguel Chavez. A steam locomotive suggestion, Southern Pacific AC9 2884 locomotive in N scale and HO. It's a huge, strong locomotive, and it has a lot of power. Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I don't think has anyone done a cab forward in N scale in like RTR plastic?
Intermountain hasn't they?
Oh, they have. Okay.
In HO for sure, maybe N
They
scale.
did it in HO, but I could have swore that there was a plastic N scale AC class.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here's another one. Early cotton belt fuel foilers impact cars. Well, it's funny you should mention that. We used to have some impact cars in our line, didn't we, Janek?
Yeah, and rumor has it that we're thinking about coming out with them again. So
That's an interesting rumor.
so I would say stay tuned for those.
All right, Santa Fe SD45B and SD45-2Bs. My question to you would be, are those the ones like the hammerheads where the dynamic brakes were up in the front of the locomotive, or were you thinking of them conventional where it just had the cabless nose and then the dynamic brakes right above the engine, or both?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're going to tell you both.
Well, the problem with those is they're almost no two alike. They're they're very individually customized and home built. So,
And how many of those did they have, especially like in the Dash 2s? I mean, was there a plethora of them, or was it just, 5, 10, 15?
it was only a handful.
Okay.
I don't know the exact number.
Yeah. A comment from Sean Teller: Santa Fe only ran the fuel foilers. Others too took their experiences and designed the new spine cars. So that is true. It was kind of a intermediate design, and but it was what I remember in the 90s, back when they had 45 and 40-foot trailers and stuff. So it's something to consider. Donnell, my good buddy from Fremont, Southern California, are you going to re-release the low and high snow plows in the HO parts line? Something for us to really consider. What do you guys think?
Re-release the...
Yeah, let's do it.
I see Donnell's kind of frame of mind. I mean, you take it over to some friend's track, and maybe they don't have, or especially in the modular environment where track is always kind of in different extremes from temperatures and things like that. So when you're putting in your fitter rails or your fitter tracks and stuff, the tops of the track or tops of the rails are always seems to be not in perfect alignment, it seems like. So if anything happens where you hit like a snowplow on one of those joints, you can really nick one of those snowplows. So I could see where he would be interested in having some replacements available.
It's really great when you have a metal snowplow and then you manage to do that and it shorts out the whole layout.
That adds to the fun of operation, doesn't it?
Yeah, you make a lot of friends doing that.
So let's see who else we got here. Oh, this is a neat one. This is something that we kind of talked about in the past. Speaking of snowplows, the really tall snowplows UP installed on the GP9s, I think they also did some installations on F units too.
Yeah, those would be cool to do. Definitely.
Janek, take a note.
Writing on my notepad.
So another parts request, for this time from Harry Wong out there from RMC. Please release as delivered EMD noses for SP locomotives in 81 inch and 88 inch configurations, as well as the extended vision used to be windows from your SD 40s. Yeah, it's something to really consider.
Yeah,
for sure.
You mean SP came without light packages?
There was a time.
Very short, I assume.
We have a request for some CN tank train cars from Mammoth Lacrosse.
Yeah, those would be cool. They have a lot of different versions too, from what I've seen.
Yep.
Yeah, again, that's not the first time I've had that request either. Definitely something to look into. The thing about them, though, is, I mean, it's a different cap tank car, so it's not something that fits on the, what are they, GATX tank train that we have now, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah, it's not just a simple paint scheme. I would love to do it. If you have any information, send us your contact info at help@athearn.com, and make sure to mention that Matt mentioned this, and they will get the email to me, and I will reach out to you.
And we thank you for doing that.
Yeah, any info anybody has about the CN tank train, reach out to us, please.
Yep. Well, SP Steam is well represented today. We have John Gillette asking for SP Pacifics with and without skyline casings. Also some got into daylight as well, apparently.
Pacifics, yes. I guess I was working on something for the MT4 and came across the Pacific photos in the SP daylight scheme. It's definitely an interesting project, something to definitely consider on future Steam developments.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey,
Also,
Chris,
we have one asking for some 72-foot cryotrans mechanical refrigerator cars from Christopher Acuna.
I'll say what I said last week. It's a car that we would like to see as modelers ourselves, most of us. And if it's something we'd like to see, the chances are pretty good.
We got all kinds of requests. We got 2 in a row here for SD50s. Would be interested in the short SD50s that were built in Australia and were secondhand from there. And then also right below that is another one, Alex Thunderbird, asking for some Rio Grande SD50s retooled with the nose light. So yeah, we better like sharpen up those bits. I mean, there's a lot of tooling. It sounds like people want us to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of tooling that I would like to do. It's just sometimes it's a hard sell for an existing project that we have, like SD50s, for example. Or do we do something that we don't have, like SD9s? It's a balance, and sometimes it's hard to find that balance, but we usually come to a good conclusion, and one of them will get made one of these days for sure.
Here's one near and dear to you, Janek. It's from Hillbilly Mike, California and Surfliner cars.
We get a lot of requests for those, even from people outside of California. So
yeah, indeed.
So yeah, I'd say those should be high on our list, right, Matt?
All I can say is that they should be high on the list because we have 2 locomotives to pull the cars.
That's true.
Yep. We have Keenan Menard here. He's requesting some more Canadian-style GMD GP38-2s in Ontario, Northland. It's something that we'll look into doing. Let's see.
There's a couple of different tooling modifications I think it would take to do those Ontario Northlands.
Yeah, we got some of it with the CPs that we showed. We need to do a little bit more to get those down right.
Philip Smith is requesting Genesis SPFE 57-foot mechanical reefers. So
I think Chris Palmares is requesting those too.
Yeah, he's my proxy. My buddy Donnell Wells pipes up again. Have you considered etched walkways for the Gunderson Maxi 3s? Also, what about a rebuilt 40-foot version? So was asking about that.
It is funny about that, and I have a question to pose to everybody watching or who watches this later. What do you guys think of a Genesis quality well car set? What kind of features would you like? What kind of I'm not going to ask what kind of price point because everybody's going to want to say $50, and that's not going to happen.
$10.
But yeah, curious to get some input on Genesis quality well cars.
Yeah,
it'd definitely be good to know.
And I sort of had a question for the group watching as well, not about well cars, but the other day I went down and shot the Norfolk Southern NNW Heritage unit in a BNSF train, and man, was it filthy. But I know when those things were brand new, they kept them in real nice shape. They were really shiny as far as the paint is concerned. And that's for all heritage units across the board, Amtrak, UP, and everything like that. So my question for the group is, for heritage units that we're going to do in the future, and we will be doing more, Do you guys want to see them with like a shiny paint finish, or do you guys like the sort of satin finish that we normally do? And when I say shiny, I mean like the shiny tank cars that we've done recently, where we kind of give it the whole thing a gloss coat. So let me know what you guys think about that one too.
That's a good question to ask, Janek. I know we've discussed that on a couple of upcoming projects, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good opportunity to discuss.
Well, I might type it out later and see what people say. So
I've been watching some of the live feed comments, and there's been some real good response to Genesis level well cars. So, Matt Donnelly, Amtrak.
Matt Donnelly wants Amtrak well cars.
Let's see. Well, guys, we're kind of coming up on our time here. We can go for another couple minutes answering your questions, and then we'll call it a day.
Genesis Maxi 3 well cars should be made out of metal. That's an interesting idea. I'd have to really talk with the factory and see what could be done about that. And before anybody says it, yes, I know the Kato Maxi cars are metal as well. I just got to see what our options are. So I'll look into that.
Yeah, and thank you for your suggestion.
Yes, thank you.
I'm actually trying to dig up a photo right now. This is, I think last week someone was asking about if F40PHs ran with Surfliner cars. Oh, and yeah. I have some photos that show you the bi-level coaches that were running with F40PHs at the time. I'm trying to dig them up from my my collection here. Actually, I think I know where they are. Let's see, who else we got here? Oh, someone's asking for some more P42s as well.
Well, that would go well with Surfliner cars if we had those both.
Let's see here.
It's been a while since we did P42, so I'd say we got another run coming up soon.
And it sounds like another run would be well received for some reason. I don't know. I mean, does anybody model Amtrak anyway besides Matt Donnelly? Kidding.
I think, Amtrak model. I think Tommaso does. Oh, he's more of an East Coast guy.
Who does?
Tommaso, the guy who keeps bugging us for the pooches.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
That's good, Matt. I'm glad you have like 3 friends. Not 3, like 3.
Matt Donnelly says I have like 3 friends. That's great. Let's see.
Well, he's very picky about the company he keeps. So, yeah.
Well, and Kyle Nemhard doesn't count either.
All right, I can. I'm going to switch over here real quick. So to answer your question last week, here's what was running with F40PHs around the time of F40PHs in California. This is Fullerton, California, 1992.
Oh man!
Wow,
blast from the past there.
No joke.
Yeah. And notice how it's eerily similar to some of the Metra cars.
Mm-hmm. That's. I thought that was up here somewhere. Honestly, when you showed that photo, Chris.
Well, it gets more interesting.
But wait, there's more.
There's way more. Actually, unfortunately, that fluted car is actually a Caltrain car.
I was gonna say it
And
looks like
if Harry's still listening, he might actually be able to weigh in a little bit about those old Caltrain cars of the time.
Where did well, and maybe Harry would know, but I wonder where those ended up. Did they end up back here, or did they get scrapped, or?
That's a great question.
Harry!
We also have Brandon Emerson asking for UP DD40Xs.
They didn't have DD40Xs. They had DD8.
They're AXs.
All right, sorry. I'll show myself out.
All right, get out that tooling again.
Yeah, really.
We got to make up some DD40Xs.
Man, what would that look like? That would be cool. Standard cab.
Yeah, really. DD40Xs. Good things coming. Harry says they're still in service.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. That's good to know. Thank you for that, Harry.
Mm-hmm. Sure could find photos of them on Flickr somewhere then.
So, all right, guys. Well, that kind of wraps it up. I really appreciate everyone kind of sticking with us and having a chat. We have a whole lot more coming. We got even some more things we haven't revealed yet today that we'll start touching upon a little bit next week. So look for us next week. It's going to be Cinco de Mayo. So woohoo! We're going to be talking about the SD70 Max next week. We're also going to bring in Tony Cook from Model Railroad News, and he's going to discuss with us some of the Mexican TFM SD70 Max, and we're going to all have Taco Train Tuesday or something. So check us out. We look forward to next time, and thank you for tuning in.
See y'all later.
See ya.